When a respected airline executive, Lena Monroe, is wrongfully accused of theft by a fellow passenger and unfairly targeted by a biased captain during a flight, the shocking incident exposes deep-rooted systemic racism and abuse of power within the airline. Despite enduring public humiliation and facing blatant prejudice, Lena's composed response and determination to confront these injustices turn a moment of personal discrimination into a catalyst for challenging corporate biases. This infuriating tale uncovers the real consequences of unchecked authority and prejudice, leaving audiences questioning the broader implications of such behavior in professional and social systems. In this captivating account, we delve into an incident that disrupted a peaceful flight, a story that transcends the immediate drama and unveils deeper truths about courage and leadership. It's a tale of a woman who, through her composure and conviction, became a catalyst for systemic change, challenging perceptions and inspiring a movement. Stay engaged to uncover how one individual's quiet strength illuminated a path toward fairness and accountability. The hum of jet engines provided a steady rhythm in the plush confines of the first-class cabin. A tranquil mix of clinking glasses, rustling newspapers, and the faint murmur of conversation filled the space. Passengers reclined in their wide leather seats, basking in the glow of warm cabin lights. The scent of freshly brewed coffee lingered, mingling with the subtle luxury that surrounded them. Among the travelers was Lena Monroe, a poised woman with a calm presence, dressed in a sharp charcoal suit. Her understated jewelry, a delicate silver necklace and matching bracelet, reflected her preference for simplicity and elegance. As she turned the pages of a novel, her expression revealed a mind at ease, but observant. Lena wasn't just any passenger. She held a critical role as the head of corporate ethics for the airline, discreetly traveling to assess in-flight service standards. Her work often took her beyond surface observations, uncovering hidden dynamics and fostering inclusivity within the organization. Lena's plan was to remain an unobtrusive observer on this flight, but fate had other ideas. The cabin was a tapestry of personalities. 2 rows ahead sat a broad-shouldered man, whose pinstripe suit seemed almost too tight for his frame. His gruff demeanor suggested a man unaccustomed to patience, as he muttered complaints about the delayed departure. Across the aisle, a young couple shared excited whispers about their honeymoon destination, their hands never parting elsewhere. Passengers busied themselves with magazines, tablets, and quiet conversations. Then there was Captain Marcus Holloway. His confident stride brought him into the cabin. Exuding authority in his crisply pressed uniform, his polished shoes clicked softly against the aisle floor. A faint air of superiority accompanied him, underscored by a glance that swept over the passengers, pausing briefly on Lena before moving on. "Good afternoon, everyone," he announced, his voice resonant yet detached. "We'll be departing shortly. Thank you for choosing to fly with us." Lena glanced up from her book, her professional instincts stirring. Something about his tone, too slick, too rehearsed, caught her attention. She couldn't place it, but a sense of unease lingered. As the flight settled into a smooth ascent, Lena immersed herself in her reading, mentally noting the interactions around her. The crew maintained a professional facade, but subtle signs hinted at uneasiness. Forced smiles, quick glances exchanged when they thought no one was watching. Lena, a veteran in navigating workplace culture, recognized the signs of tension, but didn't yet grasp its source. About an hour into the journey, the serene atmosphere was suddenly shattered. "My wallet! It's missing!" came a loud, accusatory voice from the man in the pinstripe suit. His booming exclamation drew the attention of passengers and crew. He rose abruptly, his face flushed with a mix of anger and indignation. His movements were as erratic as his tone, making the situation impossible to ignore. Lena instinctively closed her book and turned toward the commotion. The man's loud accusations pierced the calm, pulling everyone's focus to the escalating scene. A flight attendant approached swiftly, her professionalism unshaken, though her tight posture betrayed underlying anxiety. The cabin, once filled with comfort and quiet, now simmered with apprehension. It wasn't just about a missing wallet anymore. An unseen tension gripped the air, setting the stage for a confrontation no one could have anticipated. Lena watched carefully, her trained eye picking up details that others might miss. This flight was no longer just another routine trip. It was about to test her resolve and everything she stood for. "Sir, please take a deep breath," the flight attendant urged, her voice calm, yet strained. Could you double-check your belongings? Perhaps the wallet slipped under your seat. I already looked, the man snapped, his voice booming over the cabin's quiet hum. Someone here stole it. His accusing glare scanned the passengers before settling sharply on Lena Monroe. Lena looked up, meeting his gaze with unwavering calm. Her book remained open in her lap, her demeanor steady, but she could sense the shift in the cabin. Curious and uneasy eyes turned toward her, and whispers rippled through the space like an undercurrent of tension. The atmosphere grew heavier as Captain Marcus Holloway entered the cabin, his imposing presence drawing immediate attention. His polished exterior now gave way to a sterner edge, his expression tight. "What's the issue here?" he asked, his tone curt and more commanding than concerned. "That woman," the man declared, pointing directly at Lena. "She's the one sitting there, pretending to read. It's all too convenient." Holloway's gaze shifted to Lena, a flicker of skepticism flashing across his face. "Ma'am," he said, his tone clipped, "I'm going to need you to step aside so we can inspect your belongings." Lena closed her book deliberately and placed it on the tray table. "Are you suggesting I'm responsible for this, Captain?" she asked, her voice calm, but firm. "I'm not accusing anyone," he replied, though his sharp tone betrayed his intent. "But we need to eliminate every possibility your cooperation would be appreciated." Years of corporate negotiation had honed Lena's ability to remain composed under pressure. "Of course," she said evenly, gesturing to her bag. "You're welcome to search my belongings. However, I would advise caution. There are proper protocols for handling situations like this. Are you certain you're following them?" Her words were a quiet challenge, but Holloway ignored the warning. He signaled for the flight attendant, whose nervous hands fumbled as she unzipped Lena's meticulously organized bag. The passengers watched with bated breath as the flight attendant pulled out a tablet, a notebook, and a neatly folded scarf. She hesitated, then looked up at Holloway, her voice barely audible. "There's nothing here, Captain. Check again," Holloway snapped, his frustration evident. "That won't be necessary," Lena interjected, her calm voice slicing through the rising tension. She reached into her jacket pocket and withdrew her ID badge, holding it aloft for all to see. The murmurs grew louder as the badge caught the light, its logo unmistakable. The flight attendants exchanged uneasy glances, while Holloway's jaw tightened. Before he could react, another flight attendant knelt near the accusing passenger's seat. From under the edge of his seat, she retrieved a wallet. Rising slowly, she extended it toward him. "Is this what you're looking for, sir?" she asked, her voice trembling. The man's face flushed crimson as embarrassment replaced his earlier bravado. He snatched the wallet from her hand, stammering an incoherent apology before sinking back into his seat. Lena remained seated, her expression calm but thoughtful. This wasn't merely an isolated misunderstanding. It was a microcosm of deeper systemic issues. Captain Holloway, however, seemed unwilling to concede. His gaze, now laced with resentment, lingered on Lena before he retreated to the cockpit. As the plane continued its flight, the tension lingered like an unspoken question. Lena's mind raced, though outwardly she appeared unshaken. Then, a flight attendant, her name tag reading Maya, approached with hesitant steps. She leaned in close, her voice barely above a whisper. "Ms. Monroe, I'm so sorry for all this," she began, glancing nervously toward the cockpit. "But Captain Holloway has decided to make an unscheduled landing. He's claiming it's due to a security breach." Lena raised an eyebrow. "A security breach?" she asked, her voice calm but carrying a sharp edge. "And what grounds does he have for this claim?" Maya hesitated, her eyes darting away. "He didn't specify, he just insisted airport security meet the plane." Lena's expression didn't waver. She recognized this for what it was, a thinly veiled act of retaliation. As the plane began its descent toward a regional airport, the murmurs of passengers grew louder, their earlier curiosity now tinged with anxiety. When the plane came to a halt, Holloway emerged from the cockpit, his steps brisk, his expression triumphant. Approaching Lena's seat, he gestured toward the exit. "Ms. Monroe," he said with mock politeness, "I'm afraid I must ask you to disembark. First airport security will need to speak with you." Lena stood, her movements deliberate and graceful. Gathering her belongings, she met Holloway's gaze with quiet resolve. On what basis, Captain? Standard procedure for suspected individuals, he replied, the smirk on his face unmistakable. Without a word, Lena walked to the exit. On the tarmac, a small group of airport security officers awaited her. Their confident demeanor faltered as Lena reached into her pocket and presented her ID. Ms. Monroe, one officer stammered, his face paling as he read the badge. We had no idea. Spare me the excuses, Lena interrupted, her voice cool but resolute. She had no intention of letting this end here. I'll be speaking with your supervisor very soon, Lena Monroe said evenly, her voice cutting through the murmurs of the disembarking passengers. Behind her, the businessman who had ignited the chaos kept his head down, his shame visible in the tight clench of his jaw. Captain Marcus Holloway lingered at the top of the stairs, his arrogant posture betraying the unease creeping into his confidence. The pivotal moment came when Lena, now accompanied by a group of airline executives alerted to the incident, entered a private conference room at the regional airport. Among those waiting was James Delacroix, the airline's CEO, a commanding presence in a tailored suit that exuded authority and precision. Ms. Monroe, Delacroix began, his tone respectful yet firm. I've been briefed on the incident, but I'd like to hear your account directly. With composure that never wavered, Lena detailed the events. She spoke not only of the false accusation, but also of Captain Holloway's clear violations of protocol, the biases that had surfaced, and the misuse of authority that had escalated the situation unnecessarily. She highlighted the broader implications, not just for her, but for the passengers, crew, and the airline's reputation. When she finished, Delacroix shifted his attention to Holloway, whose earlier bravado had given way to visible discomfort. Captain Holloway, Delacroix said sharply, do you have anything to add? Holloway fumbled for justification, claiming he had acted to ensure the safety of the flight. But Delacroix silenced him with a raised hand. Safety, he said coldly, does not include fabricating breaches or targeting passengers based on personal bias. Your actions today jeopardize the trust of everyone on board and tarnish the reputation of this airline. That is unacceptable. Turning back to Lena, Delacroix continued, Ms. Monroe, on behalf of the airline, I extend my deepest apologies for the unacceptable treatment you endured. Please know that this matter will be handled with the utmost seriousness. As Holloway was escorted out, the weight of his actions finally seemed to register. His arrogance crumbled under the weight of accountability. For Lena, however, this was about more than personal vindication. It was an opportunity to address the systemic issues that had allowed such behavior to persist. The aftermath of the incident was anything but quiet. Lena's resolve to transform her experience into meaningful change took center stage. Seated across from the airline's senior leadership in a brightly lit boardroom, she projected the same calm determination that had carried her through the ordeal. This isn't about one man or one incident, Lena began, her voice clear and unwavering. What happened on that flight is a symptom of deeper cultural issues. If we truly want to prevent this from happening again, we need more than apologies. We need action. James Delacroix nodded gravely, his sharp eyes focused on her. You have my full support, Miss Monroe. What do you propose? Lena leaned forward, her gaze moving across the room. First, we need a comprehensive internal investigation. This isn't just about Captain Holloway's behavior. We need to look into whether similar complaints have been ignored in the past and assess where our workplace culture has failed. Delacroix jotted down notes and gestured for her to continue. Second, Lena said, mandatory diversity and inclusion training for all employees, senior leadership included. This isn't a box-ticking exercise. It's about creating a culture where fairness and respect are foundational. There were murmurs of agreement around the table, but Delacroix raised his hand to quiet them. How do we ensure this doesn't appear as mere damage control? Lena's expression hardened. Transparency. We need to acknowledge what happened, share our plans for reform publicly, and show measurable progress. This isn't about our image. It's about earning back the trust of employees and passengers. Eleanor Reeves, the head of operations, spoke up. What about reporting mechanisms? Do we have systems in place for employees to raise concerns safely? We need a revamped reporting platform, Lena replied. One that ensures confidentiality and accountability. Complaints must be addressed promptly and taken seriously. We can't rely on chance encounters like mine to bring issues to light. The meeting stretched on, with Lena addressing questions and refining her proposals. By its end, the leadership team was unanimous in their support. "You've given us a clear path forward," Delacqua said, leaning back in his chair. "I'd like you to lead this initiative, Lena, not as a reaction to this incident, but as a long-term commitment to making our airline a leader in inclusivity and respect." The weight of responsibility settled on Lena, but she didn't hesitate. "I'll make it happen." The following weeks were a flurry of activity. Lena spearheaded the internal investigation, uncovering troubling patterns. Complaints about Holloway and others had been swept under the rug for years, underscoring the urgent need for systemic reform. The diversity and inclusion training Lena implemented was immersive, focusing on real-world scenarios and fostering empathy. Skepticism from some senior staff gave way to introspection as participants shared personal stories of microaggressions, bias, and exclusion. The sessions sparked overdue conversations and laid the groundwork for lasting cultural change. Simultaneously, Lena launched a redesigned reporting system. It provided employees a confidential platform to raise concerns, with a dedicated team ensuring complaints were investigated and resolved transparently. Her efforts extended beyond internal reforms. Lena proposed a diversity task force composed of employees from various roles and backgrounds. The task force would serve as a bridge between frontline staff and executives, ensuring all voices were heard. Maya, the flight attendant who had courageously intervened during the wallet incident, was one of the first to join. "You showed us that speaking up can make a difference," Maya told Lena at their first meeting. "I want to help create a workplace where everyone feels respected and valued." The changes soon bore fruit. Employee satisfaction surveys reflected growing trust in leadership, and passengers praised the airline's transparency and commitment to inclusivity. Media outlets highlighted the airline's reforms, positioning it as an industry leader. Months later, standing in her office overlooking the runway, Lena watched planes taxi toward takeoff with a sense of fulfillment. The turbulence she had faced on that flight had set the stage for progress, and she was determined to ensure the momentum continued. Leadership, Lena realized, wasn't just about responding to crises. It was about turning challenges into opportunities for growth. With the support of her team and the unwavering belief in her vision, she had transformed an injustice into a beacon of progress. "This is the kind of leadership we need," James Delacqua said, his voice resolute. "Not just to address this incident, but to set a lasting standard for the future. Lena, you have my full backing. Let's make this happen." Under Lena Monroe's guidance, the airline wasted no time implementing sweeping reforms. Working closely with human resources and external consultants, Lena spearheaded a comprehensive overhaul of the company's culture. The cornerstone of the initiative was a series of training programs designed to challenge biases and foster inclusivity. The first sessions were held with top executives, setting a precedent of accountability at the highest levels. From there, the training expanded to include pilots, flight attendants, and ground crew, emphasizing collaboration and respect across all roles. The revamped reporting system was another transformative change. Lena ensured that employees at every level had access to a safe, anonymous platform for voicing concerns. Complaints were reviewed by an independent committee, and swift action was guaranteed. For Lena, however, these measures weren't just about damage control. They were about creating a workplace grounded in dignity, fairness, and mutual accountability. Her empathetic yet determined leadership inspired her colleagues to take ownership of the transformation, fostering a sense of shared responsibility across the organization. Months later, the results of Lena's efforts were becoming evident. An airline once weighed down by unspoken hierarchies and entrenched biases began to shift toward inclusivity. Employees reported a renewed sense of respect in their interactions with one another, and the transformation was reflected in their service to passengers. Maya, the flight attendant who had bravely intervened during the wallet incident, became a powerful symbol of the changes taking root. Her role on the diversity task force allowed her to amplify the voices of frontline staff, quickly establishing her as a leader in her own right. "Maya's contributions have been invaluable," Lena said during a company town hall. "She embodies the heart of this airline, the people who make every passenger's journey safe and comfortable. We're not just listening now, we're committed to continuing to listen." The once fractured relationships among crew members began to heal. Pilots and flight attendants, who had previously operated in silos, found common ground through shared training sessions and open dialogue. The atmosphere on board flights became noticeably warmer, with passengers noting the crew's genuine professionalism and attentiveness. Feedback surveys highlighted the changes. Passengers praised the airline's transparency and commitment to improving their experience. Regardless of class or background, employees, too, felt the difference, with satisfaction ratings reaching new highs. At the leadership level, James Delacqua reinforced the cultural shift by attending training sessions himself and holding senior executives accountable. His visible support underscored the airline's commitment to lasting reform and sent a clear message: inclusivity and respect were non-negotiable values. The Diversity Task Force also proved instrumental in driving change. Comprised of employees from all levels and departments, the group provided a direct channel for addressing systemic issues and recommending tangible solutions. One of their early victories was revamping the onboarding process, ensuring that new hires understood the airline's commitment to inclusivity from day one. During a press conference, Lena reflected on the transformation. "Culture doesn't change overnight," she said, "but we're committed to the journey. This isn't just about fixing what went wrong. It's about building something better for everyone." On a recent flight, Lena had a chance to witness the fruits of her labor firsthand. Boarding as a passenger, she was greeted with a warm smile by a flight attendant. The cabin radiated professionalism and ease, a far cry from the tension and chaos she had experienced months earlier. As the plane ascended into the clouds, Lena gazed out the window, a sense of fulfillment washing over her. The turbulence she had endured had paved the way for a brighter future, not just for the airline, but for its employees and passengers alike. Lena's journey wasn't just about addressing an isolated incident. It was about demonstrating how resilience and leadership could turn adversity into opportunity. Her unwavering resolve not only held individuals accountable, but also catalyzed a broader cultural transformation. Her work inspired others, like Maya, to find their voices and take an active role in shaping the airline's future. Together, employees, passengers, and leadership became part of a movement toward greater accountability and inclusivity. The changes Lena championed sent a powerful message. Respect, fairness, and equity are essential, regardless of rank, title, or background. As Lena reflected on the journey, she saw it as a testament to the power of action. Turbulence, whether in the air or in life, can lead to clearer skies if we approach it with determination and vision, she said during a keynote speech. The airline, once marred by division, had become an industry leader in inclusivity, transparency, and employee engagement. Thanks to Lena's leadership, it had set a new standard, not just for airlines, but for organizations everywhere. As the plane leveled out at cruising altitude, Lena smiled to herself. The path to progress was rarely smooth, but the view was worth the climb.